Thanks, Josh. Congresswoman Kuster, earlier this year, your information was compromised in a hack of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. Do you believe that a particular group or country was responsible for or behind this hack? And should the government be doing more to protect members of Congress online?
Well, I definitely think that's true. Yes, the FBI has said that it was a hack by the Russian government in an attempt to interfere with our elections. It's a very serious state of affairs, and my understanding is the FBI is continuing the investigation. It brings up the question about Mr. Comey's influence in this election right at the final hour about Secretary Clinton. I think he made a big mistake. There are two premises that are very basic in the FBI and the Department of Justice, not to comment on an investigation during that investigation, and certainly not to comment before an election. But now that that has been compromised, I think they should come forward with the investigation about the Russian connection to Mr. Trump's campaign, his staffers that were literally on the payroll, and this is something that needs to come out. But yes, absolutely very serious about the allegations of interfering in our elections.
And Mr. Lawrence, if the U.S. were to receive definitive information that a foreign nation was behind a cyber attack or hack of U.S. resources of the government, would you be in favor of using conventional military means to respond, that is traditional warfare, or would the appropriate response be in cyberspace?
I do believe that using conventional military force in any case should be a measure of the last resort. Being a military veteran and a proud graduate of the United States Air Force Academy, I know that we should not use our military in any situation around the world. This particular situation, I would not be in favor of that. We could utilize our current assets through a cyber-type response to this type of attack that would be much more appropriate than sending in military forces.
And Mr. Lawrence, do you believe, as Congresswoman Kuster said, that Russia is behind hacks in this election, that they're trying to influence the election in some way?
I don't have any evidence to show either way whether Russia is trying to influence our election one way or another. So I would have to see the facts in that case and the evidence before I could make a decision on that. As far as I can tell, we have a fair election and the process should move forward.